Communication, like financial resources, is fundamental for the good performance of non-profit organizations. But are we sure we really know what communication means? In this module, we're going to explore the basic of good communication. There will be 3 sessions extremely linked to each other. The first one is focused on the communication in a social enterprise context. The second one is centered on the social enterprise approach. And the third one is on body, visual, and social media communication. Each session is composed by 4 parts: focus, dive into, surf, and test. Let's get started. The goals for the first part are understanding the meaning and the origin of the session keywords, understanding the communication mechanism and the communication barriers, reflect on confidence, empathy, listening, stereotypes, and prejudice, deepen the discrimination factors. We all communicate, but do we really know what communication is? Communication is often said to be a message conveyed from one person to another. It's the mutual exchange of information, opinions, requests, feelings, or emotions between 2 or more people. To better understand what communication is, let's see what a message is. A message is a discrete unit of communication intended to be passed from the sender to the receiver. With this being said, let's see how we communicate a message. There are different elements of communication: source, message, encoding, decoding, channel, receiver, feedback, and context. The source is a person attempting to share the information. The message, as we said earlier, is the information that needs to be sent or shared. Encoding means the process of assembling the message into a representative design with the object of ensuring that the receiver comprehends it. The channel stands for the way the message travels from one point to another, and that can be voice, radio, television, telephone, magazines. The decoding is the process by which the message is decoded. The receiver is the person whom the sender transmits the message to. The feedback is the way that the receiver responds to the message. And the context is the environment in which the message is delivered. In this page, we have selected for you a collection of movies, short videos, songs that we'd like to recommend you. The power of communication, how to explain anything to anyone, 4 steps to clearer communication. What is the communication process, definition, and steps? How to communicate effectively and efficiently. 7 ways to be a better communicator. Now that we know the elements of the communication, let's see how and with whom we communicate. We have 2 mechanisms of communication: formal and informal. Formal is the type of communication that takes place through the different official channels of the organization. It can be written and oral. It can also be vertical and horizontal. If it's vertical, it flows up and down within the organization. Horizontal, or also lateral, it's when it occurs between various divisions of the organization. Informal communication, instead, it's a more colloquial and it's often distorted and takes place quickly. There are also other types of communication: verbal and paralanguage, or non-verbal. Verbal is composed by words, spoken rather than written. Non-verbal, or paralanguage, is considered the communication that represents all the visual expression, like body language, gesture, the posture, and all the vocal effect that can modify the message, like the rhythm, the tone, the loudness, and pause and silence. The rhythm is the speed of the speech. The tone is the manner. The loudness is the volume of which someone speaks. And pauses and silence are super important because giving a break can give time to reflect. The communication can be effective and efficient. Nonverbal communication is the use of facial expressions, gestures, body movement, posture, and tone of voice to communicate. According to experts, A substantial part of our communication is nonverbal. Every day, we respond to thousands of nonverbal signals and behaviors. From our handshakes to our hairstyles, nonverbal details reveal who we are. In this page, we have selected for you a collection of movies, short videos, songs, and anything that we'd like to recommend you. A silent video loop inspired by Bruno Munari's work, and a supplement to the Italian dictionary. The most important language you will ever learn. From BBC Learning English, a video to learn about using intonation to express facts or ask questions. Verbal and non-verbal communication in famous movies and cartoons. A National Geographic video on an animal dance aimed to impress the ladies. Efficient is used to describe something or someone that works in a quick and organized way. Effective is used when something gives you the result that you want. The basic of an effective communications are empathy, active listening, assertiveness, questions, feedback. Let's dive into the empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person wants to say or feel. So it's the capacity to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. When we communicate, we all make some mistakes. The mistakes that have not to be made are: we don't have to use technical jargon with people that don't have the same experience as we have. We don't have to use stereotypes or unpleasant distractions. We don't have to jump to conclusions. And we don't have to forget to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. Empathy. When we communicate, there are also some barriers. What are those barriers? Barrier is something that prevents the movement from a place to another. So it's something that prevents the message to be sent or to arrive correctly. We have different barriers. And we can read those in the slide 21. Sender barriers, encoding barriers, medium barriers, decoding barriers, receiver barriers, and feedback barriers. For an effective communication, we need to understand what stereotype and prejudice means. Stereotype means to believe unfairly that all the people or things with a particular characteristic are the same. Prejudice means an unfair feeling or dislike for a person or a group of people because of sex, religion, race, or anything that is considered different. In this page, we have a collection of videos we'd like to recommend you. You'll find the links to What Does an Engineer Look Like? I Struggle to Say These Words. It's Beautiful, a Confusing Word, a mix of verbal or non-verbal communication. We also have disadvantages in the communication, and this depends usually on culture and discrimination. The disadvantage is the lacking in the basic resources or conditions believed to be necessary for an equal position in society. The process of discriminate is instead when we treat a person or a particular group of people in a different way just because of their skin color, sex orientation, religions, or again, anything that we consider different. And now, as you all can see, from slide 29 to 34, there are some simple exercises. In this section, Communication in a Social Enterprise Context, we have different goals, which are understanding the meaning and the origin of the keywords, understanding how to identify the object of your company, learn to identify your target, understand the difference between profit and non-profit organization, and adapt a strategy to your situation. But let's talk about social communication. Social communication should be seen as an investment. A good communication strategy, aided by some basic skills, could stimulate the growth of your company. The fundamental characteristic of a social communication is in its value content, while communication is on a different type while conveying similar messages. Communication takes on a social dimension when public bodies offering services to citizens promote communication of public utility. The communication they seek to raise public awareness is different from basic communication, And it's a time of communication where the individual tries to get more involved, more and more. The focus should always be on the mutual exchange of information. Communication in a social sphere represents the responsibility of entities towards their public. After all, the word communicate comes from the Latin communis, which means together, shared. And that's why social communication is seen as sharing information. In order to have an effective communication, we need a code that is known and shared by everyone. And to do so, we can use strategies, symbols, categories, or stereotypes. But what is a communication strategy? The strategy is a common plan that the organization uses to communicate. To create this plan, before starting a project, the organization should examine its general vision, the main purposes, and objectives. This happens for profit and non-profit organizations. But let's see the difference between these two. Profit means money that is earned in trade or business after paying the cost of producing and selling goods and services. Non-profit is an organization whose most important goal is something that doesn't involve money. Usually, non-profit organizations compete with other non-profit organizations, but also with profit ones. So any non-profit organization has to tell its story in an appropriate way to offer its services and products. The first step is to analyze your business objectives and therefore your communication skills. To do so, we can ask some questions, like what business do I have? What business goals do I want to achieve? Why should I use certain communication tools and not others? And what's my target then? But do we know what a target is? The following example shows how this could work in practice for an organization. Each of the strategic objectives of the organization can show how operations and communications can contribute to achieve the objectives. Objective 1. To provide the best standards of care and support for people using our services. Objective 2. To play a key role in the community as a valued provider of services for vulnerable people. In this section, a collection of movies, short videos, songs we liked and we recommended to you. What does a good communications strategy look like? Integrated communication strategies for nonprofits. A communication strategy is designed to help you and your organization communicate effectively and meet core organizational objectives. Target is a form of advertising, including online, that is direct towards audiences with certain threats, based on the product or person the advertising is promoting. To identify the target, we need to identify the correct recipient for our product or services. To establish a target audience, we can look for the best customer or the perfect user, and so we can also focus on subgroups. There are usually 4 segments to analyze: demographic, gender, age, level of education of the consumer; geographical, where the consumer is geographically; psychographic, this information relates more to the socio-economical aspect of the consumer; and technographic, this information relates to the majority of devices used by the consumer. These researches can be done using social media and networks, and nowadays non-profit organizations use these channels also to communicate. Because through social media, they can spread their mission to new potential volunteers and donors. Plus, they can create blogs or they can comment on existing blogs, they can participate in discussion groups and publication on status or updates. Non-profit online campaigns that rock the social media are Water is Life, #First World Problems. Water is Life used the already viral hashtag First World Problems to undergird an emotion-laden video. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge is one of the most successful social media fundraising projects of all time. Make-A-Wish shares all its video wishes on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. WWF, World Wildlife Fund. They retweet images on Twitter. Doing all those things, non-profit organizations make themselves known. And this is extremely important to tell their story. Storytelling described, in fact, the social and cultural activities of sharing stories, including plots, characters, and narrative points of view. Often, a social enterprise arises from a story or from an experience, a problem with which people connect emotionally. A story can be told to people of all age and cultures. It can inspire, attract great attention, or respond to something very important to all the people around the world. That's why it's extremely important for non-profit organizations to have something to say and to say it well with clear and consistent messages. Most people nowadays, before making a decision about donate or buy something, prefer to research the organization online or inquire online. Because people want someone to sell them something, but they prefer to read up on themselves, learn about their problems, services, and products. That's why it's important for the organization to action of positioning. And now we have some example of branding positioning, storytelling, and strategies. And then we'll follow some exercises. In the third section, body, visual, and social media communication, the goals are understanding the meaning and the origin of the keywords, deepen the communication mechanism, understanding the information flows, communicating by connecting, and reflecting on connections and networks. Let's talk about communication between many and few, focusing on multi-channel, like the web. Internet allows us to quickly access a large quantity of information, and it's now a tool of great communication. And it has in fact opened up different scenarios and has created the basis for the development of new ones. Multi-channel are also important fundraising tools for many non-profit organizations. The fundraising is the process of seeking and gathering funds by engaging individuals, businesses, and agencies. Mass media refers in fact to a diverse array of media technologies that reach a large audience via mass communication. In the marketing, there are three micro categories: face-to-face, two people communicating; one-to-many, like public speaking. And in this category, it's important to consider the story, how to use eye contact, how to use the voice, and how to show that the speaker is human. The third micro category is screen-to-face, like laptop, computers, phones. The main thing to remember is that no matter how the communication happens, people buy people. So it's very important to acquire trust through personal branding, like selling yourself and your career as a form of self-packaging. Personal branding is the practice of marketing people and their careers as brands. It's an ongoing process of developing and maintaining a reputation and impression of an individual, group, or organization. President Obama has become one of the best public speakers of our time. He uses stories, eye contact, like he's talking to each individual. He uses his voice, and he shows us that he's human. The first link will put you to a video that will teach you how to use your body language effectively. Read the audience body language and what to do when they look bored or disconnected. 8 ways to read someone's body language. The speech that made Obama president. What are the benefits of face-to-face communication? The importance of face-to-face communication in the modern workforce. Coming back to the one-to-many category, the visual communication is something to focus on, since consumer takes a passive role not being able to interact with the brand or with other consumer to exchange advices and opinions. The mass media or new media have 5 distinctive elements. They can be unidirectionally. There are mass media or mass marketing, monologue, focus on the product, and target. Feedbacks are necessary for communication. Receivers receive the message. Receivers receive the message and react to it. The elements that instead characterize the many-to-many categories are omnidirectionality, the fact that the flow of information doesn't have a specific direction; dialogue, the customization of the product thanks to the feedback, the focus on the consumer, and the consumer considered as a partner. Another way that non-profit organizations communicate is via training courses. In this page, you'll see a collection of links to movies, short videos, songs that we liked. How much we know about social media. We have a Facebook movie, The Social Network. How social media is changing communication. Is social media hurting your mental health? What is social media? The 9 types of social media that you need to use in 2020. In those, you can learn how to know your audience, to set goals, planning a course program, and establish the teaching method. To apply the right method and the teaching techniques, it's possible to repeat the concepts, introduce the different topics, prepare ongoing tests, create involvement, take the right breaks, and ask for opinions. And now, let's do some exercises.